2025 is over, 2026 is here, and that means we can go over my stock portfolio returns in 2025. Hello, my name is Jack Murphy. I got two portfolios, a Schwab portfolio and a Roth IRA on M1 Finance. So I'm going to go over my growth and dividend returns in these portfolios for 2025. I'm going to just go right into the growth first. We're going to start with my Schwab portfolio and look at that in Snowball Analytics. So this is the portfolio tracker I use. And as you can see, growth in 2025 was about 14.41%. Comparing to the S&P 500, I slightly underperformed where it did about 17.77%. So the difference, if you look up here, was about 2.64% or $334. That basically just means if I invested all the money I invested in that portfolio into the S&P 500, that would be how much better I would do. So I stayed pretty close. I try to outperform the S&P 500. We didn't hit it this year, but we learned a lot, and we're going to try to go more growth oriented next year in this portfolio. So that's kind of what I'm taking away from this. And if we look at my Roth IRA, which is mostly ETFs, it's kind of the same story. I do about 35% VOO, which is the S&P 500, 35% QQQM, which is the NASDAQ 100 ETF, and that's a little more volatile. I also do about 20% in SCHD, which is a dividend ETF, and 10% in Regeneron, which is just a growth stock I'm interested in. So that's the breakup of my Roth IRA, and it actually performed pretty similarly to my Schwab portfolio, where I got about 27.75% returns. I should say that's actually a little bit higher, of almost $3,000. And the S&P 500 did about 31.21% in that time. So if I just invested solely in the S&P 500, I would have made about $3,408, which is about a $400 difference, or 2.91%, I should say. In my Roth IRA, I don't really plan on changing much. If anything, maybe I would put a little bit more into QQQM from the other positions, but I don't plan on making any changes as of now. If I do, I'll mention it in one of my videos. Next, let's look at my dividend stats in these portfolios during 2025. So we're going to go back to the Schwab portfolio. And as you can see, I got $301.68 in the month of 2025. Monthly, that was about $25.14. Daily, about 83 cents. Here is the month-to-month returns. January, February were kind of slow months, $20, $11. March was a big month, $37. April, $28. And then I did a portfolio recomp. It set in, and I don't have a lot of dividend payers in May, August, or November, so those were slow months. But June, September, and December were all big months. December ended up being my biggest month of about $46 in 1 month from that portfolio. So I do monthly videos, and you can see all my dividend stats for each month. If you go back into my channel, you can click on any one of those. The last one was December, and you can see my monthly dividend payments there. But what I don't really show you is my Roth IRA. I really only talk about it in these 2025, 2024 year recaps. So we can look at that now. And in my Roth IRA, I got $168.37 in dividends. Now, I didn't get paid out every month, but on the ones I did, March, I got paid $38, June, about $30, July, only $13, September, $30, October, $13, and then December, another $45. So that's how I did in the Roth IRA. That's not dividend focused at all. So those are good dividend stats when you're not really paying attention to them. And since I don't really do month-to-month videos about my Roth IRA returns, we can look at the December dividends to see what I get. Regeneron paid me about $1.97. That's my 10% position. SCHD paid me about $24. That's my big dividend position. Vanguard VOO paid me about $12.83. And QQQM paid me about $5.91. So that's what the dividends look like in my Roth IRA if you're interested. So for 2025, if we combine the portfolios, I got $470.40 in dividends, which is a pretty big number to me considering where I came from. If we go back and look at previous years, you can see how much the portfolio has grown. In 2024, I got $325.68 in dividends from both my Roth IRA and my Schwab portfolio. And 2023, I got $157. I didn't have the Roth IRA at this time. I wasn't 18. And then 2022 was not a full year, but I got $48.82 in dividends that year. So you can see a pretty drastic jump from year to year. And we can actually look at 2026 projected dividend income using Snowball Analytics, and it projects I'm going to get $511. Now, that's not assuming I add any money to the portfolio, which I will, so that's not entirely accurate. And I actually plan on doing a portfolio recomp in my Schwab portfolio, which is where I get most of my dividends. I actually plan on cutting some of the dividend positions, so it's not going to look the same next year. It might even be lower, but that's what the current portfolio would do in dividends in 2026. Snowball Analytics actually put together a little 2025 recap for me. They do that in all their accounts, but before we look at that, I want to go over my total net worth stats. Now, net worth is in these two portfolios. This doesn't count savings or anything, but right now, these portfolios are worth about $27,076. My total profit in these portfolios is a little over $6,000. And then my passive income is about 1.94% averaged between the portfolios and all the weights of my positions, which comes out to about $511 annually. I guess we can scroll down and look at these, but that's not part of the year recap. So we're going to go up to 2025 recap for Snowball Analytics, and we'll skip through some of the stuff I already talked about. But here are the top 5 positions over time. Beginning of the year, it was QQQM, VOO, SEHD, Regeneron, and Realty Income. But now it is QQQM, SEHD, VOO, Regeneron, and JP Morgan. JP Morgan's the only new one. I actually didn't really buy a ton of JP Morgan. My position just went up in value like around 30% this year. So that's how it jumped to the top 5, just through capital gains, which we love to see. My portfolio of value changed about 24%. In the beginning of the year, it was around 21K, a little under 21K. And now my portfolios are valued at 27K. So they went up about $6,000 this year, mostly through contributions and then also capital gains. I think it was around half and half. This was actually a really weak year for me in terms of adding money to the portfolio. Didn't really make a ton of money this summer, trying to get an internship for 2026. So didn't have a ton of income to invest, plus, my life expenses. But we still did pretty good considering all that. Toughest dip of the year. In February, it was around $22,000 total value in my portfolio. Dipped almost 15% and then recovered fully by June 10th. So you can see not to panic sell, because if you panic sell thinking there's going to be a stock market crash and there isn't, you're going to miss out on that 15% that fully bounced back like 2 months later. So we talked about some of the other stuff, but my portfolio gained $3,509 this year. So actually it was around half of the total year gains. And then QQQM was my biggest gainer at around $767, 67. VOO did about $633, and Regeneron did about $383. Don't dislike the video because it's a 6-7 joke. That's my bad. But we'll go to the next slide. I received dividends 45 times this year. My top 3 dividend payers were Altria Group, SCHD, and Realty Income. So that was a nice little recap put together by Snowball Analytics. I am partnered with them, and I use them to organize all this information for this video. So if you want, there's a free trial link in the description. I'd appreciate using mine if you are going to try Snowball Analytics. But don't click off the video yet. There is one more thing I want to talk about. Last year in my 2024 recap, I asked the comment section if anyone could make a prediction for this year, and I would put the closest one in the video. So I'm going to give that shout out now. Ephraim Invests predicted $609, which was actually the closest to my actual $470 in dividends. So Ephraim Invests, shout out to you. Congratulations on being the closest comment. And I'll put that out there for this video. Comment down your prediction for my dividends I will receive in 2026, and whoever's closest will get a shout out at the next year's video. That's all I got for today. Thank you so much for watching. Check out one of my other videos if you haven't already. Peace.